But this news is so big and so important and so crucial that I would really like this administration to know about this as soon as possible. President Trump to know about this. This can help in reducing the price of energy for this country. The real thing is that we are not working on it. And that is really a terrible thing and a real loss for the United States. So as far as energy is concerned, this is a very, very important thing that we should be working on, and we are not.
This is CBS Eye on the World. I'm John Batchelor. Hotel Mars, episode N. David Livingston, Dr. Space himself of the Space Show, is here as my colleague and co-host and co-pilot. And we're very pleased to welcome Dr. A.J. Kothari, who is a man for two directions for us today. Too much so that we have to get right to it. First, not only a return to the moon, but also the high frontier of Mars ahead of us. And then something exotic that is fresh information, the thorium reactor. We begin with the moon, however. Dr. Kothari, AJ, a very good evening to you. Your article published earlier this year recommends returning to the moon without SLS. Why so, AJ? Good day to you.
Good day. Thank you, John and David. Hello. Well, the problem really is a couple of fold. One is that the SLS that we have costs $2 to $4 billion per shot, and so being able to compete with China, is probably going to definitely going to have taikonauts on the moon. My guess is by 2028, by before President Trump's term ends, and we cannot really sit around and not be on the moon before that or at the same time. It's just not possible. So what we have to do is two things. One is that we have to get astronauts on the moon, but we also have to build habitation and structures. That cannot be done with SLS because SLS is just way too expensive to be able to do that. So SLS is a problem. Starship has its own problems. We'll see what happens next month. But they've had 7 or 8 flights, and they've not been successful so far, really, to be able to do something. Plus, they have a problem of having to refuel the upper stage in LEO anywhere from 8 to 15 times. And that, to me, also is a problem.
So you believe Starship is not the answer and SLS is not the answer. Is there an answer, AJ?
Yes, what I am suggesting, what I've done some calculations and all that for using something that has been successful 8 out of 8 times, also by SpaceX, and that is Falcon Heavy. Now, Falcon Heavy has flown eight times, and they've been successful every time to the point and completely successful. Now, the problem with Falcon Heavy was that if it is just one flight of Falcon Heavy, that's not enough to give us the oomph, or what we call TLI, translunar injection propellant, to be able to go to the moon. But what I thought was that what if we do it, say, 2 or 3 times, and then dock the upper stage in orbit, in low Earth orbit, LEO. We have been docking in LEO for last 40 years, 50 years, since actually 1965, and you know what ISS and all that. So docking is not a problem. If we dock them, the first flight will take the payload, and the second flight will not have the payload in the upper stage, but instead it will have more propellant, excuse me, equal to the weight of the propellant. So when these two go and combine together in orbit, the total amount of propellant fraction for the combination increases, is that propellant fraction enough to give us the TLI, which is translunar injection, and when it gets to the moon, LOI, which is lunar orbit insertion? Is that enough? So my calculations are showing that that is enough. That is one way of doing this, and we can send the lander that way first to the low lunar orbit. It stays in the low lunar orbit, and then we can send the Artemis 3 astronauts in another, it's like a Dragon capsule or something like that, and um, or Orion. But I mean, I would no, think about using a Dragon capsule for that with properly made modifications. And then that also goes to the moon. It goes into the low lunar orbit. And just like Apollo did, they will combine, I mean, they'll join together and then transfer two of these astronauts from Dragon to the lander that we sent earlier. And then the lander will land and we'll do the excursion for 6.5 days, 7 days, just like what Artemis 2 is planning. And then it'll come back again to low lunar orbit, transfer the crew, the two astronauts, back to the Dragon capsule, and then the Dragon capsule has enough uh, to do an injection, trans-Earth injection, TEI, to come back to Earth and then stay. Now, the the upper stages that went at this time to the low lunar orbit can also be used as, I mean, this is a double whammy, can also be used as future habitats.
Right.
They will land, at least one of them will land on the lunar surface, and it can be used as future habitats.
Yeah, so you're talking about a multiple stage expedition to the moon. David, we have a couple of minutes if you have a question.
Does your plan envision using Gateway, or does that go by the wayside along with SLS?
The Gateway goes by the wayside along with SLS. It really is not necessary. I would suggest that the Artemis Accords, people who have signed that, they'll be very happy to transfer all those ideas back to actually doing things on lunar surface. That's what we need to do. We need to do things on lunar surface. And John and David, look at the amount of money. The SLS will cost $4 billion per a shot. Falcon Heavy's cost. Falcon Heavy has three different varieties, variations: partially reusable, completely reusable, and completely expandable. All my calculations are based on partially reusable, which would cost about $120 million each. 5 flights of that together would be 600 million and maybe 700 or 800 million. But compared to 2 flights of SLS, which would be required, $8 billion, this would be so much cheaper. This is like 85 to 90% cheaper than that. Imagine what we can do with those that saved money of three and a half, $4 billion.
What are you leaving on the moon after the first several expeditions? What does it look like?
I would really like to see us using this same idea of cheaper way of having a sustainable, cheaper, safe way to get to the moon. Take a lot of infrastructure there and start building habitation, start building even the energy that will be provided, that will have to be provided. And my point is going to be nuclear. I mean, my preference is going to be nuclear.
So you're putting nuclear reactors on the surface of the moon to sustain the habitats that you're making out of the Super Heavy, or no, just Falcon Heavy. David, we have a minute if you have a question.
What kind of interest are you ascertaining is behind your plan? Is it getting any notoriety with the people that need to see it?
Well, I think that yes, I have talked with I've talked with some people in politics, Congress, and other places, and they are interested in that.
The race to the moon, is that the driver here, AJ? The race?
Absolutely, it race to the moon, beating. I mean, look at how it would look. We
Right.
have President Trump has said that he wants to be on Mars by 2028. To get to the moon, the one SLS. I mean, get to the moon meaning the Artemis 2, which is to go around the moon and come back. It can do that. To go to and land, we will need two more SLS, which we don't have.
Which we don't have. So China will win that contest.
Yeah.
The rabbit will beat the tortoise. Dr. AJ Kothari, his plan for the moon by 28. If not, we land second. And we now need to turn to his other observations about energy needed for the 21st century. In order to do anything in deep space, we need calculations driven by artificial intelligence. I'm not going to prove it. There it is. Okay. But artificial intelligence chews up more electricity than we can imagine. We need endless supplies of energy going forward for the population, but also for the high end. And Dr. AJ Kothari is here to help us understand what is a thorium reactor and who's building one right now, AJ.
Well, I think that um, we are uh, losing to China in both space and energy, actually. Um, and in energy and in space also, but that's certainly in energy, some new news that have come out makes it look like China is going to eat us for lunch. And this is a warning to United States. In the energy sector, there has been news that is leaked out that the Chinese thorium reactor, which was TMSRLF1, actually actually worked and worked quite well, and has been um, actually went critical and created enough power to 2 megawatt power on June 17th of last year. And then in October, it ran continuously for 10 days. Now, this is big, but another important thing is that now they have also been able to fuel this reactor continuously while it was running. And so that also is a huge risk. This is a big problem and big thing for the United States, because China also discovered about, and that was in the news a few months ago, that they have enough thorium to give them energy and electricity for 60,000 years. And they have discovered this thorium all over the country in about 213 sites. So, with that, China will be completely independent of any requirement for energy, no oil import, no wind farms required, no solar farms required, no talk of space-based solar power, none of that necessary. You can imagine what that would mean for China. This thorium is going to be the king, and it's going to be a kingmaker.
David, you have a question for AJ.
Um, where is the U.S. with thorium, or is it even thinking about it yet?
This is formerly called the thorium molten salt reactor, TMSR, or the liquid fluoride thorium reactor, running similarly in the end product to a nuclear reactor. You're heating water and spinning turbines. However, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly correct. It's just what is happening is that we have this thorium, and then thorium is bombarded with neutron source, and it becomes it becomes thorium 233 instead of 232, and then it decays into protactinium, and then it decays into uranium 233, which is fertile. Now, and yet uranium-233 then can fission into, into two parts, and xenon and strontium, and give out energy equal to uranium-235 when it does. Now, the
Right.
problem is that uranium-235 is only 0.7% when we dig out the uranium from Earth. And thorium is, all of it is used. All of it. 99% of the thorium will be used. So if you dig out 0.7%, that is uranium-235, that actual ratio of availability of nuclear energy is 400 or 500 to 1.
All right.
So
How much thorium does the U.S. have? And is the U.S. working on a thorium reactor?
US, all the reactors that we have in the world are thorium. I mean, sorry. Oh, you are asking about thorium reactor. US is not working on thorium reactor per se. There is one company, Flybe Energy, and my company, Astrox. Both of us are doing work on it. My company has actually designed a small modular reactor based on molten salt reactor, and also we can design a micro one. So the thing is that since thorium is so much more abundant, already 3 to 4 times more than uranium, it really is 400 to 500 times more abundant than nuclear fission producing.
All right. David, you have a question. We're not working on it. China has a beta.
Yes.
What do people in the energy industry, are they thinking about thorium, or it's just not something the U.S. focuses on or is interested in it?
And do they know that China has a beta?
Well, I mean, this news which has come out just very recently, so they would know that, and I think that the real thing is that we are not working on it, and that is really a terrible thing and a real loss for the United States. So as far as energy is concerned, this is a very, very important thing that we should be working on, and we are not.
And why not? Just because it's too new, it's too fresh, it's experimental.
Well, we decided not to work on it long time ago because it does not produce plutonium, by the way. So it cannot be made into a weapon in the same way. It's much less likely to be made into a weapon. So we didn't go into this at that time, 50, 60 years ago, and we decided to go the uranium route, and the whole world went uranium route. And, uranium needs to be obviously enriched 3 to 5% to be in a reactor, and it needs to be enriched to about 19.75% to become HELU. And then, of course, for a weapon, it is 80, 90%
Right.
enrichment.
We talked to you a year ago about a thorium reactor. Since then, the development is China. This information that China's got a beta, just one beta right now.
Uh,
How many reactors does China have? Just one?
China has just one right now, but they've already broken grounds for another one in the same place in Gobi Desert. By the way, this reactor does not need water at all, so it can be, if it is a small modular reactor, it can be put anywhere near the data center, wherever the data centers are.
AJ, does China know about your company? Have they stolen from you?
No, I don't think they've. Well, I don't know if they have or not, but they probably know about everybody, and that. But this news is so big and so important and so crucial that I would really like this administration to know about this as soon as possible. President Trump to know about this. This can help in reducing the price of energy for this country, for inflation. Not just that, but I mean, the price of the energy can be
Right.
halved from what it is now.
Dr. AJ Kothari, in two directions, to the surface of the moon and to the surface of the planet Earth with abundant energy and not the risk of plutonium. David Livingston, Dr. Space, Hotel Mars, Episode N. I'm John Batchelor.